still didn't leave any.
Okay, and that was because yours was too wet.
Mhm.
So, okay, here's what I've got this liberally soaking wet back to this. See, it's shiny. It's so wet that the water will run off of it. That's how wet I want it to be. And then, of course, I'm putting it on a non-absorbent surface. Okay. Now I'm going to wet the front. All right. So the front should be shiny. Should be very shiny. And it should remain shiny while you're working. Whoa. Hopefully. Pretty shiny. All right. So the objective here, or not the objective, what you need to think about is starting out too wet. Start out too wet rather than the other way around. So what we're doing is, when I find what I do with my paper towels, okay, I've got my color here, and I'm going to, let's see what's going to show up. Okay, I'm going to lay some strong color on here. So I'm not even right up to the kitten yet. And what I'm doing here is I'm testing to see how my water and paper are reacting, because there's no formula where you have 3 drops of water to 2 drops of, there's nothing like that. You're always testing, and it's always constantly changing as the water begins to dry. Now I can add on out here later, so I'm not concerned with that. So I'm pulling it up in there, and especially along this ear, which isn't all that, it doesn't have as much fluff, just this soft edge that is creating will be enough. Now over here, I want some things to happen. Oh, so I'm playing into this, and there may be some background color that comes through here, because when you have all those little fine hairs, you're not really seeing, a pure white or pure background color. You're getting some in-between stuff. So this works. And I could just play. Okay, this is working out too well. Let's come down here and let's see. All right, there were things I needed to say, but okay, the first thing was definitely start out too wet. And as you're working, your paper is drying. So the thing about watercolor is that you are working in time, which is something like if you were oil painting, not so much. And even acrylics can be slowed down a little bit. But here it's all about even the humidity of the room, which is low today. Makes a difference. And anytime your humidity is real low, you may find some benefit in wetting the underside of your paper. No matter what you're doing, you might want to do that. It depends on what you're trying to do with it. So I'm pulling some in, but part of my plan was to pull some out like this.
So you're pulling some in and pulling some out?
Well, yeah, it's to be able to, depending on what shape the cat needs. You see how I can take away. Now, when it runs back in and fills back up, as was happening in which one?
Mine.
Where's yours? Yours, okay, is this one. Is that this was so wet that you couldn't, you kind of needed to just be touching the edges and playing with it at that moment, and then wait just a little bit longer, and trust me, it won't take it long, particularly in this weather. So we can have these like little soft edges. At some point the paint reaches a point where you can actually have a tiny trail of water or other color of paint, depending on what you're doing. And that trail will make a place there. See that? But it will still feel soft like a kitten instead of, the hard edges that we tend to get with watercolor. So, and if I want that wider, I'll just add a little bit more water in there and pull it out. And I think I need to change the direction of the hair here because we don't want it all going the same direction, and we want a little bit of curve to it. Okay, so see, I can do things like that. The thing is, I can't be in a big hurry to make this happen. Now, I've got an area up here that's still damp, and I want more color coming back in this way, I think. And so I can kind of, again, I'm coming in here, and before I do a lot, I'm testing it to see how it's going to respond. You can see that the paper is drier and different things are happening here, but it's still pretty soft. So I can make a few things happen there. Now, I hate to say it, but this is pretty damn nice. All right, so one of the things that, this one, see, she was really on the right track with it. It just looks like he stuck his paw in the light socket.
Yeah.
Because the edges are a little too straight. The edges are, you're trying to get the technique down, and so also if you are lifting with a flat brush, you are more likely to make straight lines.
Yeah.
So at some point you may want a small, and you just try different ones. What the brush that suits one person may not be the brush that suits another person. Damn, that looks good. I did that.
It looks even better.
Oh yeah, because
once
on
you capture
camera,
it,
okay. You did have to say that, didn't
Well, I
you?
mean, it just stands
Yeah,
out.
I know. So anybody looking at that thinks now this isn't as good. Thanks a lot.
I'm here for you.
So now we've got this, and we want to make it come further out. And did I have a plan? No.
Do you want to record this part?
Yeah, I think we will, and it's on a separate thing, so it's real easy for me to take it out. All right, so what we could do, let's pretend that this got all the way dry. Okay, let's pretend, because it didn't, and so I probably shouldn't. You're probably right, I shouldn't be recording this. So I'm going to dampen this. I'm being real careful because this does have moisture in it still. But I can come out here and wet this, and wet into this other area part way, not into my furry edges, but into this. You want to make this thick enough that you can add to it without disturbing the kitty part. So now it would be nice if I had mixed that color exactly the same as the last time. Mix up a lot of color, don't do what I'm doing here. We've got a lot more brown in that. We'll just try to, there. Okay, so now look at that in there. That looks really bad. So what I'm gonna do, come in here really wet and gently talk to it right in there. That should probably work. If you have more paint mixed, you could get a little heavier with it, and it wouldn't look quite so streaky back there. But something like that, okay? So what I suggest is that you do around, but you see how thin that is? Probably make the area outside of the cat at least that wide, or maybe wider, so that you can come back and bring in more color later. You could do it then. It's just a matter of where you are mentally and how much paint. If you've got enough paint mixed up, you could do it all in one whack.
Okay. Now, when you add like the gold here, do you wait till it's
I'm going to let that get dry.
and re-wet it?
And then I can glaze in, and I will also And we will do this, but we will do it later. But we will work wet and wet. That's probably next week. But
Yeah.
we will again work wet and wet with these inside parts. So what I'd like to have done today is the around and maybe the eyes, nose, and mouth. They don't have to be finished, but at least have strong edges on them where they're begun, so that they hold up. So when we get this really wet, you know, that we still have a face to look at. And then we will build the cat from the inside out. And if necessary, areas like this, we might go to white ink in here or something if we need to. So
we go all the way around the cat?
yeah. And so now here I have the situation where I need to go and see the back is shiny here, so that's okay. But if the back stops being shiny, it's time for me to re-wet the back. Here, because I don't want to mess with that, I'll wet down here. So again, big brush. Clean water, sort of clean water. And I'll get this whole area down here wet, but not touching up there. So I can start back with this and saying, oh, that's a little too wet yet. Or my paint could be a little thicker. If my paint's a little thicker, it's going to move less, and maybe I can get that darker. Maybe I'd like that to be darker down here. And so let's see what it does. Now, if it starts going over, let's get some color out around here. If it starts going over too far over the edge, and the hair in here is finer and shorter. So here we've got the more exciting area, and that's harder to do. Well, that almost paints itself. Mm-hmm. But if it's too wet, it may come in too far, and you might have to push it back out the other direction. I don't think that is going to be too bad. It's coming a little too far out. Whoa. Okay, I spoke too soon. So let's see what we need to do here. And, you know, sometimes it helps if you can. I may just, if I add much water right now, it's going to flow too much because it's pretty wet there. So I think I'm working best with a clean, squeezed out brush here. And I can just pull up little bits of paint. That doesn't mean that I might not come back with some more water later, but for right now, and actually I think that edge is probably pretty good, but you know, if it's starting to get away from you, you could come in and you can clean it up like that. Now I'm seeing, if anything, that's really lighter than I wanted it to be, and it's still very wet. So I could come back in. I think I'll get a little further back from the Kitten and use a little bit richer, I think richer's a good word, a little bit richer paint. See what happens there. Now is it growing inside too much again? Now, the paint that I just put down is not really contributing to that flow over the edge. Now I've got a moist brush, and I'm just going to do that. And that little bit of water that is coming out of that brush, because see, the size of the brush makes a difference too, because if you've got a really large brush, you're probably carrying so much water it may get away from you. So it's a lot easier to work with a smaller brush, and this happens to be a small but very wet brush. So there, I've got a nice, fuzzy, soft, you know, plush toy edge. Yeah. So I might just do that much of, oh, what happened over here at the paw? Okay, I'm adding water back in. That's the back paw. And I enlarged it from the photo because I just can't stand that photo distortion there. So I want to pull that back up. There. So you kind of have to keep an eye on it. I could start working another area, but if I do, I need to remember that this is still moving and changing over here a little bit. So, okay. If you use some of these natural clay colors or whatever, like the yellow ochre or raw sienna or the burnt umber, some of those will help slow your paint movement down some and make it a little easier to control. And here's Deborah's painting from last week that I thought turned out really, really well. And I love what the color does coming down through here. So let's just, and you can see the leaves coming off the edge, so it gives it a, it's connected to the edges, it's not floating out in the middle. So it looks really good. This is a good example. This is Pat's